Hello and welcome to Unprofessional Engineering. My name is James.
And you got Luke.
Luke, we're continuing on talking about the table of elements. This time we don't have any clever naming or anything like that, but I have a couple that sound like they came from inventors, and you have some that I don't know. I can't pronounce the one.
I can't pronounce it either.
Yeah, so I don't know. These are kind of interesting, but they're not as good as some of the other elements, I think. Maybe we need to get to some of the better elements in life.
So I think what we need to determine first, James, is do people like these episodes? I think it's kind of interesting, the history piece of it.
That's the part I like.
I imagine we're going to get to like eventually, like if we do the whole periodic table, we're going to get to like oxygen, and we're going to be like, oxygen is what you breathe. It was never discovered because it was always there.
I don't think that's true. I think it will be far more interesting than what I have. Do you want to go first or should I?
Yeah, I'm going to go first. And I'm going to start with coming right out of the gate. This one is
Molybdenum.
Perfect.
Did you hear how I said it?
I did. You have a beautiful tone to your voice.
Molybdenum.
Well done. Oh, that was good.
I tried lip syncing. So I had
molybdenum.
Molybdenum.
Got it.
Yeah. So
known.
I had to go to the Googles to figure out how to say this one. So interestingly, let's just do like the details. So molybdenum has an atomic number of 42. Its atomic symbol on the periodic table of elements is M, capital M, lowercase 0. It has an atomic weight of 59.96. It has a density of 10.2 grams per cubic centimeter. At room temperature, it's a solid. So this is essentially like a metal. It has a melting point of 4,753 degrees Fahrenheit, so really high melting point. This stuff will eventually boil if you get it almost up to 8,000 degrees Fahrenheit, which is kind of crazy. Like how do you boil stuff at
8,000?
8,382 degrees Fahrenheit, this stuff will boil.
I don't think my thermometer goes that high.
Yeah, I had soup. Fun fact: I had soup at what's it called, Eaton Park, about 2 weeks ago, and I'm fairly certain it was 8,382 degrees Fahrenheit because I literally burned my entire mouth.
Lawsuit.
Molybdenum is a silvery white metal that is ductile, and it's really highly resistant to corrosion. It was often confused with where was it? It was often confused with bituminous materials, so it wasn't discovered for like the longest. Well, I'll say the longest time. It is 1.2 parts per million of the Earth's crust by weight.
It's a lot.
So it's not a lot. So let's talk about the discovery. So in 1776, Swedish chemist Carl Wilhelm Scheele, stated firmly that molybdenum was indeed neither galena or graphene. That was the original name of it,
Stupid.
of course. And because it's very difficult to find this element all by itself, just like a lot of elements. You know, they're always mixed in with other things, like especially metals. They're all mixed in as rocks. So it wasn't until Peter Jacob Helgem successfully isolated, good old Peter, he isolated molybdenum using carbon and linseed oil. I don't know why linseed oil has showed up in a couple of these episodes. Like, I don't know what they use it for, but like, I always thought it was like what you put on your feet and your hands whenever they got really dry and cracked. So he did that in 1781. So a handful of years later, he actually was able to isolate it. So I think it's a combination of Carl and Pete. They're kind of like the discoverers of this. Fun fact, during World War I know you love your war references.
I do.
The demand for molybdenum spiked because it was used in armor plating as a substitute for tungsten whenever they were making high speed steel. So,
Oh,
so it's
high
really,
speed steel.
oh, I'm sorry, high strength steel. I said speed.
Oh.
High strength steel, and the reason was because tungsten was way more difficult to find and mine and create. So this one works a lot better as creating an alloy with steel to make it armor proof.
Wow.
You can buy a kilogram of this stuff for $44.25 if you happen to need any.
$44 and wow.
44. So it's
That seems
pretty,
like a
it's pretty
steal.
cheap. Now here's where it gets even weirder, James.
It was already pretty weird.
It was pretty weird. Molybdenum is an essential trace mineral that is inside of cheese, milk, legumes,
Oh,
leafy vegetables,
you need to eat this.
organ meats. So if you're one of
Ugh.
those people that does
Do
organ
you
meats,
eat organ meats?
I've done it, but it's
My
I have
brother's
done
one of
it.
those people.
I have done
Ugh.
it. So interestingly, you have to have molybdenum. Like there's supplements. Like you can buy a molybdenum supplement if you happen to have a deficiency. Super, super rare to have a deficiency in molybdenum.
I love that you've pronounced it no less than 17 different ways so far, and that
Well,
makes me happy every time.
hold on, James. It's called.
Molybdenum.
Ooh, that was really, really well done.
See how I did
Your
that?
mouth
So
matched perfectly.
it did match perfectly. So like there's a page on WebMD for this. So it essentially they use this for cancer of the esophagus, something called Wilson disease. But it's typically you get a deficiency in it and then you need it. It's like if you don't get enough iron, you need a certain amount of iron. You actually need a certain amount of molybdenum.
Huh.
I
Very
do keep
interesting.
saying it differently. Sorry.
No, it's nothing to apologize for. Was that it for molybdenum?
Yes.
All right. So I'm going to jump into mine, which is far less interesting than that one was. And it is atomic number 99. Do you know what that is, Luke?
Oh, that's Bill the Nice Science Guy, Ibdeman.
Bill Nye, the science
Bill.
guy. No,
It's named after a person, isn't it? Yeah, I knew it was a person.
Einsteinium. Obviously, this was discovered by one of our great inventors, Albert Einstein. Check out the episode that we did on him. Actually, it was not discovered by him, but it was named after him. Tricky. Einsteinium was actually discovered by a different Albert Ghiorso.
Nailed it.
Ghiorso, for those who want to Google it, and his friends. Einsteinium was discovered in the debris, this is pretty neat, of the first thermonuclear explosion named Mike. Because why wouldn't it be named Mike?
It's called Mike?
Yeah.
Like M-I-K-E?
Oh, like a person's name. Yeah, Mike. Which I think it was like Big Mike or Mike, but it said named Mike, which took place on a Pacific atoll in November 1952, November 1st to be exact. Fallout material was gathered from a neighboring atoll, and that was sent to the Berkeley, California area for analysis. There, George, Chopin, Stanley, Thomas, Albert, who I just mentioned.
I thought that was one person's name.
And Bernard Harvey all worked together. And within a month, they had discovered and identified 200 atoms of a new element, Einsteinium, but it wasn't revealed until 1955. So a fun fact for you, Luke.
Shoot.
Completely unrelated to Einsteinium, an atoll, because I know that you're curious what this is and you have no idea what it is. It is a ring-shaped reef, island, or chain of islands formed of coral. You're welcome for that.
What's it called again?
An atoll, A-T-O-L-L.
Atoll.
Yeah.
I think I've heard that
on
before.
The turnpike, you have to pay a toll, but different. You see, the Einsteinium had formed when some uranium atoms had captured a bunch of neutrons and gone through a bunch of series of decay steps, resulting in Einsteinium, famous Einsteinium 253, which has a whopping half-life of 20.5 days. So they must have been capturing this stuff pretty quickly, is what I'm thinking. If the half-life was still going on before it decayed, that's pretty short. So I'm thinking whoever was over there on the neighboring atoll probably didn't fare so well in the long term after gathering up all of these goodies. Don't you think?
It can't be a good thing, right?
Yeah, right. So, in addition to people going and scooping it up, fun fact for you, the material was first collected by filter paper on drone airplanes flying through the radioactive explosion clouds. And then later, Einsteinium and element 100, its neighbor, fermium, were positively identified in coral gathered on that atoll. So that was kind of interesting, but all born from a nuclear reaction.
Interesting.
So good stuff there. By 61, enough Einsteinium had been collected to be visible by the naked eye and weighed not a whole lot, 10 millionths of a gram. So you could see it, but it didn't weigh very much. The natural abundance of this thing, it can be obtained in milligram quantities from the neutron bombardment of plutonium in a nuclear reactor. So not really readily available.
You're not going down to CVS to pick this up.
You are not. Only a few milligrams of it are made each year, which begs the question,
What do they use it for?
How do we possibly get by in life without more than a few milligrams of it each year? And what is it used for? Well, the uses of Einsteinium are numerous. Outside of research, it has no uses. So there we go. We managed to scrape by off of our milligrams.
So here's the problem whenever we do these episodes, right? Like we pick these names of these elements, like this episode in particular, and we have no idea if it's good or bad until you do the research. So like you purely picked it based off of the name, I picked mine based off the name, and I got lucky because mine actually has some usage and it's interesting. Yours is totally useless and not really interesting at all.
Totally useless. No, I know. So two more things about it that are kind of interesting. So one, it actually was used as a calibration marker in chemical analysis spectrometers. So that was used for the Surveyor 5 lunar probe. So that's something. It was just kind of used to detect stuff. But interesting fact about the safety of this stuff, most of the available Einsteinium toxicity data originates from research on animals, sadly. I don't condone that. Upon ingestion by rats, only about 0.01% of Einsteinium ends up in the bloodstream. I guess that's good. From there, about 65% goes to the bones, where the remaining goes for about 50 years inside of it, not really doing a whole lot of anything. Given the 3-year lifespan of rats, though, not a whole lot was figured out about this stuff. So not real good. Then it goes, well, I won't go into the rest of the bits that it goes into, but you can probably guess about why I'm not talking about it. So with that, I think it's time for us to take a break for a word from our sponsor.
The only person we mentioned so far was NASA with the telescope calibration thing, right? Was that NASA?
It was a lunar probe, so I suppose so.
So them. No?
Yeah. What's that?
Oh, no, I mentioned CVS. Sponsored by CVS. Sorry. No, not sponsored by CVS.
No, we're not allowed. Oh, yeah, you did mention.
We're not allowed.
No, we don't have any sponsors. Logan. Stop breaking the law. We do have shoutouts, though.
Who do we got?
Devin G wrote in and said, "Just found the podcast. Love it so far."
That's it?
A second email arrived. Would love an episode on welding engineering, please. Well, thank you for the write-ins, Devin. I appreciate it. I hope you continue to love the podcast, and I don't know what welding engineering is, but it sounds like something that we could research, in fact.
Well, we did welding, and I think we got some shade for that one.
Did we do welding? Oh, yeah,
we did do welding. I don't know if we...
People are like,
and they were like,
smart.
You're not welders, clearly.
Well,
it's like...
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
Well, you got shade from your welder relative. That doesn't count. Nathan M. also wrote in on Christmas Day, so I thought this warranted a shout out. Freshman at the University of Illinois Urbana.
Go Mud
Champaign,
Ducks.
Studying mechanical engineering. Good job,
Way to
Nathan.
go.
Good choice. I found out about your podcast around August of this year. I don't know why it took him so long to write in. Or maybe he actually wrote in a long time ago and I just haven't read it until now. Sounds much more likely.
Yes.
And ever since your podcast has helped me to entertain me on my long car rides, I wanted to suggest that you guys look into making a video about the topic of mechatronics and mechatronics engineering.
That could be an interesting one. I
Mech-
kind of know what a mechatronic is.
Mechaleka High, Mecha High,
Mechanio. What was that from?
Pee-wee's Playhouse.
There you go. The fact that we both knew that.
That
is
was
amazing.
worth it. Oh goodness. I've added that to the list, Nathan. It sounds very interesting. I'm sure we will botch it because we're not that smart, but we will try our best. Luke, I'm mega behind on emails, so I wanted to ask you 3 options. 1, do you want to take over writing all of the emails? Maybe now that you're a big manager, man, you could have your lackeys do it for you. Not an option. Okay. 2nd, do I just write back to all of them with a generic thank you copy and paste message?
No.
3rd, do I continue to mostly just ignore them and slowly trickle a few out here or there when I need shoutouts?
I think you and I do a division of labor, James. Give me access to the account, and
I've given you access many times.
I don't think I have access to the Gmail.
So we're going to divide and conquer the
Yeah. Oh,
200
yeah.
emails sitting there.
Yeah. I think it's a good idea.
Okay, we'll work on that. All right. If any of you want to have an email ignored by me, if you want Luke to incoherently respond to you, if you have any suggestions for episodes, if you want some amazing stickers that I probably won't send you because I won't get to the email, anything like this, why don't you go ahead and email us at unprofessionalengineering@gmail.com.
And don't forget to subscribe, like, share. We love the reviews. And as always, you can play the Unprofessional Engineering Podcast by telling your smart device, play the Unprofessional Engineering Podcast. And my voice is turning on me and I'm not speaking properly right now. Excuse me.
Yeah, don't tell it to play that. You won't get us.
Alrighty, my next one. I'm going to titanium. And I thought we did this one before, but apparently we didn't. At least we said we didn't.
Fun fact about titanium.
Hmm.
The entire Titanic was made out of titanium, and that's how it got its name.
I do have an interesting fun. Okay, so first of all, do you want a real fun fact?
I thought mine was really fun.
No, yours was not fun at all.
Go ahead.
The Boeing 737 is made up of 15% titanium, according to Boeing.
Interesting. Do you want a fun fact that's actually true?
Yes.
Russian subs often would use titanium welds, so they were able to go much deeper than US subs.
Why do you know titanium information?
That's just off of the top of my
Top of
head,
your head.
actually.
Yeah,
it
that's
really
what I
was.
figured.
Go ahead.
Alrighty, so it has an atomic number of 22. Its atomic symbol on the periodic table of elements is capital T, lowercase I. It has an atomic weight of 47.867, or as the uneducated person, 88. It has a density of, I know, those are the worst that round up. It has a density of 4.5 grams per cubic centimeter. At room temperature, this thing is a solid, as usual. Melting point, right about 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Boiling point, you can boil titanium. That's kind of cool. Right about 6,000 degrees Fahrenheit. It has 18 isotopes. Go ahead.
Did the Terminator fall into boiling titanium, or was that something else?
So
Maybe it
that's
was an undisclosed material.
Well, no, it fell into like steel, like molten steel. So I don't think it would have actually melted if it was made out of titanium. It wasn't 6,000 degrees Fahrenheit, is my guess.
It's bogus.
So some of the common isotopes are titanium 46, 47, 48, 49, and 50. The name titanium is named after the Titans, the Greek god and myth. And I think the reason it was done that way was because of its exceptional strength when it was originally found. So it was super, super strong, and that's why they named it after the Titans. A lot of times it's used all over the place. I mentioned airliners. I've seen it in lacrosse sticks, body piercings. I know you got a bunch of them, and tons of medical equipment, and even sunscreen.
Wow.
Did you know that?
I did not know that, but I feel like titanium would keep the sun's rays away from me.
Titanium oxide, the white. So when you see the lifeguard with the white stripe on their nose, that really thick white stuff, that's titanium oxide. So it's really, and that's obviously a heavy concentration of it. But a lot of sunscreen, it's actually it's so faint, or it's actually see through when you put it on your skin. So titanium oxide is what they put inside of sunscreen, and it's inert. So if you ingest it, it doesn't kill you like some other materials. So just kind of keep that in mind. Some uses for titanium. We mentioned sunscreen. Probably the one that most people are interested in. But it's actually because it is non-reactive. It's really great when connecting bone. So if you
Oh.
think of medical implants, a lot of medical implants.
Think about implants a lot.
I know, I know you'd think about medical implants all the time. So a whole bunch of them are used for joints, hip replacement, knee, elbows, shoulders, all those sorts of things. A lot of screws. So I have, is your cat going crazy in the background? I have, I think I got a handful of titanium surgical screws in my shoulder, and I got a handful in my knee.
I forget how much you're falling apart sometimes.
Yeah, I'm significantly older than you are.
You are.
It's obviously used in, I mentioned, aircraft because it's light and strong. So it's typically not pure. It's usually some type of alloy. It's really abundant. It's the 9th most abundant element in
Wow.
the Earth's crust, which I
didn't
didn't
know that.
I thought it was pretty rare.
Me too.
So it's actually pretty inexpensive, but like if you had to buy it, it's only about $30 a pound, but it's then all the processing
Working with it, yeah.
and working with it that makes titanium cost a lot of money. So my ring, so this is my wife got me a wedding ring that is made out of it's a titanium alloy
Nice.
wedding ring.
So you could like punch anything with that and nothing would happen to it.
Exactly. It's like Thanos's glove.
It's much like that.
So the last thing I want to say is this was discovered by an amateur geologist. I almost said the wrong word.
Whoa.
That would have been awkward. And who's an amateur geologist? Like I don't get that.
I guess if you find something like this, that's just like
You're
what they
considered
call
an
you,
amateur.
right?
So he was a reverend. So amateur English geologist, Reverend William Gregor discovered this in 1791. It was in a sandy creek bed. It was mixed with all kinds of other stuff. Really wasn't sure what it was. And it wasn't actually turned into anything until a German scientist named Martin Heinrich Klempomp was studying the ore, and he realized that he could actually get the titanium out of the rest of the ore, and that's actually when it was discovered. So
I really like German potato salad. I'm putting that out there.
warm potato salad?
German potato salad.
But it's still warm. Okay,
Oh,
quick
yeah, it is
quick
warm.
fun facts, and I'm out of the way. I
go
mentioned
ahead.
the Boeing one. It's in every single rock on the face of the Earth.
Every
least-
single rock.
It's from the Google machine. It has to be
It's
true.
It's true.
Titanium is orbiting the Earth right now because the International Space Station and a lot of the satellites use titanium parts.
Oh,
The
That's
Earth
fun.
isn't the only place you find titanium. It's actually on the moon
It's
in a
not real
greater
surprising.
percentage. And in 2013, some Australian from the Down Under Research Institute. I just lost our entire Australian audience.
Our 4 listeners from Australia.
So they actually started doing some titanium. It's pretty not common, but I've heard of it before this. But this was the first time in 2013 they did 3D metal printing with
I do like
titanium,
that.
and they made horseshoes for a racehorse.
Wow, that's impressive.
That's all I got.
Wow. So that was actually far more interesting than my next element that I will be covering. But before we do that, I think we need to take a break for this week's Luke's Rant.
Here's my rant, and it just happened last night. I'm sitting down, watching the news. The snow is falling, yada, yada, yada.
Snow.
Can you believe that because of, so we're recording this 2022, depending on when you listen, it's winter. Schools are doing away with snow days, James. The beloved snow day of all school children is going to be taken away because all these kids are used to working virtual the last, year and a half, 2 years. So they
that
have their
makes
computer
sense.
at home or their Chromebook or whatever they need, and they can just go virtual. So a lot of school districts are saying no more snow days. You won't have to make them up. You can just say the day ahead of time, just instead of saying it's a snow day, they'll just say it's a virtual learning day. And then the teachers get online and the kids get online and they do school. I think that is the worst idea ever because
Did you just have a 2-hour delay today?
I did. I had a.
So this isn't set yet. This is just
No,
in the future.
in our school district, that's not set yet. But it's eventually it's going to be. Oh, it's too cold. Virtual day. It's raining. It's virtual day. We don't have enough teachers. It's virtual day. The buses can't get there. It's virtual day. The snow day, I think, is a sacred thing that
I always
all
loved snow
children
days.
look forward to. and you just throw on your snowsuit and put your feet inside of some Town Talk bread bags so you don't get wet and go out and play in the snow all day.
Back in my day, Luke, it was expected that I wake up early and shovel the roadways so that the buses could get through so that we could make it to school. And I had to shovel uphill both ways.
Both ways.
Yeah. All right. Well, sorry about the snow days, kids. You'll be better educated for it with all of that great virtual learning that you're doing. I'm moving on to teach you children about Mendelevium.
This is another bad one, I bet.
No. Now, unlike Einsteinium, Mendelevium actually was discovered by Dmitry Ivanovich Mendeleev. Ha! No, it wasn't, you stupid dum-dums. It was another trick. It was just named after him.
Why do you do that?
I'm very tricky. In fact, Mendelevium was discovered, drumroll, by the same people that discovered Einsteinium.
If it
How
was
about
that same
that?
nuclear reactor explosion, I'm going to be mad.
It's
Was
almost
it?
like they're basically neighbors on the periodic table, Luke, as it is atomic number 101. You mentioned boiling point. I didn't talk about it for our friend Einsteinium, which was somewhere around 1580 Fahrenheit. This one, on the other hand, is at 1521 Fahrenheit. So it can't even stand up to titanium. This is barely worth talking about. Luke, do you know who Dmitry Mendeleev is? He was a Russian chemist and inventor. I know you don't know who he is. He's best known for formulating, this is actually kind of interesting, the periodic law and creating a really far-sighted version of the periodic table. He used the periodic law that he invented not only to correct the then accepted properties of some known elements, but he also used it to predict the properties of 3 elements that were yet to be discovered. Luke, do you know what the periodic law is?
No, I don't.
You don't. Of course you don't. It states that...
Is this just to embarrass me?
It is. I knew all of this before even copying and pasting it. It states that the chemical elements are listed in order of increasing atomic number. Many of their properties go through cyclical changes, with elements of similar properties recurring at intervals. So for example, after arranging elements in their increasing atomic numbers, many of the physical and chemical properties of, say, lithium really reacts crazy with water, which also happens with things like sodium, potassium, and cesium.
Oh.
So he's basically tying how these elements close to each other on the table react similarly in different conditions.
Gotcha.
So how was it discovered? 17 atoms of Mendelevium were made in 1955 by that group that I mentioned earlier. They were produced during an all-night experiment. These are wild and crazy guys. All-night experiment using a cyclotron at Berkeley, California. Very much like Einsteinium was. A sample of Einsteinium 553 was bombarded with alpha particles of helium nuclei.
That's the noise it makes, I'm sure.
It does. And Mendelevium 256 was detected. The half-life of this thing is not 20.5 days like Einsteinium, but a whole 78 minutes, Luke. 78 minutes. Further experiments yielded several thousand atoms of Mendelevium, and today it's possible to produce millions of them. The longest known living one has a half-life of 28 days.
Interesting.
It's very interesting, Luke.
I feel like if you just take any element and you smash it with another element, you're gonna make another element. Like
basically, yeah.
Like they could just keep doing this over and over and over again. So
yeah. Basically, nobody comes in contact with this stuff, but the International Commission on Radiological Protection has set exposure limits for it. I'm not even going to get into what those are because it really just doesn't matter. Radioactive material, only a few atoms have ever been created. That's kind of interesting. The uses for it, not really all that useful. Nonetheless, it's used for research. The isotope 256 has been helpful in understanding some of the chemical properties of Mendelevium in aqueous solutions. And that is all I have to say about Mendelevium. I did think the stuff about the inventor, or not the inventor, or the person it was named after, who found the periodic law.
Yeah, that's
And
really
what the
interesting.
periodic law was actually interesting.
Yeah.
Mendelevium,
Not so much.
interesting. Anything you wanted to add about your actually interesting chemicals or not
No,
chemicals?
but what I
elements?
would love to hear from though is if you folks like these, recommend an element. Like James and I are
Oh,
just
yes.
randomly kind of picking elements, and James happened to pick two like kind of on the poo-poo list, and mine were pretty cool, I think. So try to help us like pick good ones.
Thank you, Luke. That was a great call out.
Sorry.
If any of you have an element that you want us to investigate because you'd rather type an email than Google it yourself, if you'd like some of our amazing stickers, if you'd like us to say hello, if you want a shout out, if there's anything you want to say other than being mean to me, go ahead and email us at unprofessionalengineering@gmail.com. And until next time,
See ya.